everyone, my name's Laura and I'm the Specky Seamstress. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the dreaded alterations pile because I finally did some sewing at the weekend and it was great and I actually tackled 2 alterations which have been on my list to do for a significant amount of time, and now I have 2 new wonderful garments in my wardrobe and it didn't even take very long to sew. But we all have an alterations pile, I'm sure, which is separate to a mending pile. The mending pile of doom remains untouched. But we all have an alterations pile of things that don't quite fit right, whether they never fit right or whether they no longer fit quite right, or they didn't quite work out the way we planned, or they're just not quite our style anymore, or maybe we like matched the wrong fabric to pattern. I don't know, they're just not quite right and they need something doing to them to make them new and shiny and precious again. And it's hard mentally, I think, for a lot of us to start those projects, and I can't quite work out if it's just because it's more fun to start something new or if it feels quite depressing to be like unpicking something or like backtracking on work that we've done, or whether there's just something about returning to a project that didn't quite go right, that just, it feels hard. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think we all have those alterations that, you know, we know it wouldn't take very long, but it might take us 3 years to get to actually doing it. Maybe not 3 years, maybe 3 years. So I decided that while I was still a little bit finding my feet with style and creativity and time to sew, then maybe the alterations pile would be a really good place to start. Because actually, I mentioned very briefly in one of my previous videos that I felt a little bit guilty when I was coming into the sewing room and seeing all the fabrics and feeling a bit overwhelmed and not really knowing what to do. But also, I've been feeling a little bit guilty looking at my wardrobe and thinking, I don't wear that. It's really nice fabric. I spent quite a lot of time making it, but I don't reach for it. And you don't want to feel guilty looking into your wardrobe. Like, that's not the way to enjoy a me-made wardrobe. So I thought it was time to tackle some of those things, and I picked 2 over the weekend to work on. And what I've done is I've picked out a few. I don't know how many I'm going to talk about at the end because it will depend how long I've rambled for. But I actually think this might be quite a nice little series of videos that might pop up every so often, partly to encourage me to continue working on the alterations pile, partly to maybe see what you guys have in your alteration pile and give you some encouragement and company along tackling it, and partly to just encourage me to get into the sewing room and do a bit of sewing without feeling the pressure of making a whole garment, even though I am working on that, because I know I don't have to make a garment in a day, like, it doesn't matter. But sometimes it's harder to like embody that than it is to say it. So I think it might be an occurrence within the YouTube, my YouTube channel. So let me talk you through the two new things I have in my wardrobe. They're kind of new, but they feel new. Because I spent some time on Sunday sewing with a friend who came here to trace some patterns and cut some fabric, and I cracked on with two projects. So the first one I started actually the night before, and I'm going to get the leftover. So I made this dress, I'll pop up a picture here, when I was pregnant with James, and it was based on the Montrose pattern, the cashmere at Montrose, but I hacked it to have a button placket and elasticated at the back, and it had a really beautiful skirt on it. And I wore it a lot the summer that I was pregnant with James, which was a very hot, it was an intense heat wave in the UK. But I made a mistake and I didn't interface my button placket well enough. And I don't know if you can see, but there's quite a lot of snags in the buttons, and it pulls a little bit now, so it doesn't fit quite as well as it used to, or it didn't fit quite as well as it used to, and it just wasn't getting reached for anymore. And I thought about unpicking the button placket and trying to reinforce it, but I don't have any left of this fabric, and I don't know, it was just kind of getting me down that it wasn't getting worn, because it's this beautiful fabric. It's an Arida Hanson cotton sateen. It's very lightweight. It's like cotton lawn weight, but with a slight sheen to it. I was trying to work out if it's slightly heavier than a cotton lawn, but it's a lightweight cotton. It's beautiful to wear. It's such a nice, fun, abstract, bright coloured print. On a dark green background, which is quite rare to find. Like normally they're all on black backgrounds. I love the fabric. It was not cheap, and it was getting me down that I wasn't wearing it. But rather than faffing around with all the buttons, I just unpicked the waist seam and decided to make it a really simple skirt. That was probably one of the simplest alterations I could make. The night before, I unpicked the waist seam, and the next day I cut a length of black elastic. I overlocked it to the edge of my skirt, flipped it up and top stitched it down. Did not take me very long at all. Used a big wide black elastic. I've already worn this twice. It's great. A couple of people have said to me they prefer it as a skirt than they did as a dress. Yeah, it's cool. I have talked a little bit about having a bit of a love-hate relationship with skirts, but I think I just need to find the right shape and the right way of pairing them. And I love this. Like it's definitely going to get lots of wear, and I'm so pleased it's back in my wardrobe. I'm still a little bit unsure what to do with this because part of me wants to turn it into a little crop shirt to wear, but then I still have the problem of the buttons. I could just use it as a sample for the business because it has my rainbow bias binding in the top, so I could just use it on display when we go to sell at shows. So that was alteration number one. So this dress, it was a cashmere at Montrose. It had a Made by Ray Trillium skirt. So now it's just a Made by Ray Trillium skirt, which I think I might need to make some more of. It was lengthened, and I really love the length of it. It looks really cool with my DMs and thick tights, but I think it'll be really nice in summer with sandals as well. So, big win. Really simple win, which is also very nice. The second alteration I made was just as simple, to be honest. I started off simple. I made a Cocowawa Crafts honeycomb dress back in October 2021 out of a beautiful viscose from Cloud9. It was like a celestial range that came out, and it was quite expensive. I bought 2 meters, and I decided I wanted to make it long sleeved, which, what did I buy, 2.5 meters? Anyway, I pattern Tetrised a lot, and I ended up having to sacrifice length for sleeves, and it wasn't really short. Like it was just above my knee, and I wore it to work. I loved it, but the last couple of times I've put it on, I've taken it off again because it's just felt too short, really too short. And that's not bump interaction, that's just pre-bump. It was just too short now for me, and I felt uncomfortable in it. So I put out a thing on Instagram to ask if anyone would sell me a meter of this fabric so that I could add an extra tier to the bottom, because I couldn't see any shops selling it anymore. And very kindly, Kaylee from the Flower and Bear fabric shop, that I will pop the link down below, sent me a message to say that she had some in her personal stash that she didn't think she was going to use, and she would just send it to me. So she sent me a meter, and all I did was cut it in half, like horizontally, stitch the 2 pieces together, attach it at the bottom and hem it. I didn't do anything else because it didn't need it. It fit fine at the top, at the bodice and at the sleeve, and I have already worn this to work. I feel amazing in this dress. I don't feel like the photos do it justice, to be honest. I love swooshing around in it and I think I need more longer tiered dresses in my future. I was quite lucky that the ratios worked out really well. So it was like 1.5 times, the first tier was 1.5 times the width of the bodice, and then the next tier was 1.5 times the width of the first tier. So it has a really nice feel to it. And I'm just super happy that this garment is back in my wardrobe being worn. So like I said, this was a Cocoa Crafts honeycomb dress, but it is a hack because the honeycomb is a like shirt dress. It has a button placket and a grandad collar, but I hack it to remove that. And I've ummed and ahed about whether I want to add zips to this for pumping, but for now I'm just happy to wear it. I'm really pleased with it. Maybe it's best that it doesn't get ruined by being worn with a newborn around. So anyway, 2 dresses. It gave me such satisfaction sewing these up and having them in my wardrobe. Like, I think my husband was confused as to why I was quite so excited by having these things back in my wardrobe. But I am, and they will get lots of wear over the coming months. And just nice to have some things that make me feel like me and to feel less guilty about them being sat in my wardrobe and not being worn. So those are the 2 that I've made, and let me talk a little bit about the ones that I have dug out of my wardrobe that I feel a little bit more motivated to actually try and alter now. So let's start with a dress that I made during 2020. I was bought this fabric by my husband. I can't really remember why. There was an occasion, and this is what I chose. It's a cotton sateen from the Animalia range by Emma J. Shipley, which is an upholstery fabric. It's a thicker cotton sateen, and it's very expensive. So Emma J. Shipley fabrics are beautiful, and I love them all. And she has a range called Zambezi, I think. I think the range is called Zambezi, which I would wear all of them. They've all got like big giraffes and silverback gorillas and things on them, and they're just stunning. And she sells them in a velvet and a cotton sateen and a linen, but it's like a curtain weight linen. And I think that might be it. And I bought 1.5 meters, I think, of this fabric, and it's like £40 a metre or something outrageous. And it's got elephants and rainbows, and it's just amazing fabric. And I made a dress from it, and I think now I'd probably just made a skirt. It's a misty cami at the top, with cut off at the waist as a bodice, and then with a pleated skirt added to it, like a giant box pleated skirt, to make the elephants kind of match in the middle. And I loved this dress. It made me feel amazing. But it is butt-scrapingly short now, anyway. And the bodice doesn't really fit me very well. So I think I'm going to have to unpick the waist seam and use the piece that is the skirt as whatever I want to make. But I can't really decide what to do, because I could just add an elastic waistband and add some kind of border. I'm not sure what that border would be. It would probably have to be plain. I guess a plain cotton sateen, probably in a navy. But I'm not sure if that would look right, and I'm not sure if I would have to go and take it somewhere to find the fabric. But I'm also open to like other suggestions. I can't think creatively about that other than thinking it's going to be a skirt with something added at the bottom. I think the fabric is like, it's not quite 60 centimetres long, and I used a bias binding at the hem, so there's no hem to add some extra length, and it would have been 140 wide, I think, so it wouldn't have been 280 wide. I don't know, it must be like 2 meters, I would say, by about 60 centimetres, not quite 60 centimetres. So it's not a massive amount of fabric to play with, but it's too beautiful and too expensive too precious to abandon. So I'd really love your thoughts on that, because I really, really want that to be back in my life. And I can't quite work out what I can do with it yet to do it justice. So that's probably an easy alteration, because probably I will be turning it just into a skirt with a plain border, and I just need to go and find a nice cotton sateen to add to the border. But I would, like your inputs on that. And then let me talk about a Zadie jumpsuit that I made, because this is definitely in the category of, again, this should be easy, but I'm not really sure if it is. I made this Zadie jumpsuit in an African wax fabric, probably in 2019. Yeah, definitely in 2019, actually. And it is simultaneously one of the best things I've made and the least worn things I've made. Every time I talk about altering it I think I've talked about it on YouTube before, I think I've talked about it on Instagram before, I've talked about it with friends, they're all like, oh, but it's so nice. Just put it on, wear it for a day, see if you'll wear it. And I do, I put it on for the day. I am like, yes, I love this, it's fantastic. But I never reach for it. I never ever reach for it. And it is such a beautiful fabric that I should have absolutely turned into something else, because it is it's not too bold, it's not the right word. The pattern matching across it, because I didn't have very much of the fabric, the pattern placement just isn't right, and I'm not quite comfortable in it. And I can't decide whether this would be made better by just chopping off the bodice, going up the seam, because the Zadie is a wrap jumpsuit, but sort of removing that and making it a pair of like palazzo trousers, or even kind of shortening them to make them knee length, or whether I should try and unpick everything and just see what I can mash together out of the pattern pieces, because they're fairly large pattern pieces, but it would still be quite difficult to make a garment from them. Or what, really? I could alter it to be a dress rather than a jumpsuit, so I could sort of unpick the crotch seam and open it up and cut it down and have like a nice little A-line wrap dress, which might be quite nice. But I need inspiration for it, because I don't need to be told, oh, it's fine, just wear it, because I'm not wearing it. It's been 4 years, 5 years, and I don't wear it enough. And I love the fabric. I bought the fabric on Gold Hawk Road. It's one of my favourite African waxes I've had, and I would really like to be wearing it again in my life, I think. So that's number 2. I'm going to talk about a third one, and then I think that the others that I've dug out I might talk about the next time I do an alterations video, when hopefully I'll have altered some more and I can do the same sort of format. But the third one is a slightly unusual one, maybe. So I made this LB pullover by Paper Theory. The Zadie jumpsuit is also a Paper Theory pattern, in a grey ponte type fabric that had teal aqua dinosaurs, like in a slightly felted sort of felty fabric on top. And I loved it. It was so cool, because the grey was quite dark and plain, but the dinosaurs were just fantastic. And I wore it like 5 days in a row, and then I put it in the wash. Not like a hot wash, not anything scary. And all of the dinosaurs basically just fell off. And I was so angry and so upset, because it was not cheap fabric. It wasn't like really, really expensive fabric, but it was not cheap fabric, and it was not from like a market stall or anything. It was from a reputable shop, and I would have expected to be able to wash this fabric on a normal wash and it not get ruined. And the thing is, they all came off, but they didn't all come off fully. So there's still remnant of dinosaur on it, which is a bit weird. And I've since tried to remove them properly. So I've tried doing a hot wash. I've tried kind of to ruin it, basically, to make it at least like clean so that I could put something on it. But it hasn't really worked. And to be honest, this is still in my wardrobe. It still gets rotated, it still gets worn basically as pyjamas, or like when I'm just cold around the house I'll put it on sometimes. But it's not very nice. And I'd like it to be nicer. And this is actually the alteration that probably sparked my thinking about doing some alterations, because I saw a reel on YouTube, on Instagram, of somebody needle felting wool like polka dots onto a jumper, and they were little tiny kind of pin polka dots almost, and it got me thinking about whether I could do that on that jumper, and I could just put some like splotches of needle felting all over this jumper. It would take me quite a long time because there's lots of spots to cover, and they wouldn't be really tiny, I don't think. But it might be quite a fun project. It might be quite a fun project to do like while I'm off work. And I think that there's a shop nearby me in Newbury called Brown Paper Love, I think. I'll link below. And they sell little like 50p needle felting balls of wool that I think I could probably use. And they also run like a craft club, so I could go and just do it there, and have it as a bit of a project for that, or I could leave it in the car and do it in the car, because it's that kind of, I think it's quite an easy thing to do in small doses. When I shared that reel on Instagram, I had a few people question me about washing and how things wash with that. So I would love your experience if you're a needle felter, or you've ever needle felted anything clothing, whether you've washed it since. But my understanding would be that you've already kind of ruined the wool, like the damage has been done, so it wouldn't be a problem, and it would just continue to kind of felt a bit. I'm pretty sure people use needle felting for like repairs, so it must be okay. It's a really baggy like loose fit. There's loads of ease, so I'm not too worried if things kind of shrink a little bit. And to be honest, I'm not too worried if this just doesn't work out, because this jumper at the minute is a bit of a mess. But that's kind of what I'm thinking, because I think there's just too much area for any other kind of change. Like I thought about putting an embroidery patch on it, but it would still look really weird. So I think I need something that I can kind of do all over in small bits. So that's what I'm thinking. But if you have any more ideas for it, then please let me know. Or if you tell me I should just not spare any time on it and use it as a painting jumper, I welcome that advice too. But those are the three things that I'd like to work on soon. And then I have some other stuff that I've dug out as well. I'm going to try and make this not an overwhelming, I have this massive pile of stuff that I want to do. I'd just like to be able to pick up a couple of bits that I can alter and bring back into my wardrobe over the course of some months of time. But yeah, it was really fun to get back in the sewing room. I'm delighted to have some new things to wear, and yeah, to be able to chat to you guys and ask for your advice on some other things that I'd like to sew. That's it for today. I hope that you've enjoyed the ramble. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!